So I'd like to read you a quote from a letter that Heinz Grill sent out last week to people who study with him. And he was talking about the fact that the thoughts that we create live in the air that surrounds us. They don't just stay inside our heads, but the kind of thoughts that people think create the atmosphere. And I think we can get a feeling for that. Sometimes we go into a room and the atmosphere can be very, very peaceful, very calm, very clear. If people have thought very clear thoughts, and we can go into another space and it can feel very, very frenetic. So what I want to work on today is the idea that if we think very clear, well-formed thoughts, these thoughts go into the atmosphere that surrounds us. The exact words in the letter were, "The nature of the air's atmosphere develops according to the way individuals' feelings and thoughts take shape." I'll just read that again. The nature of the air's atmosphere develops according to the way individuals' feelings and thoughts take shape. So this morning we're going to build up to a fairly difficult pose, but we can do it in more introductory stages. We're going to do the camel. And the camel requires a lot of strength and stability around this region, the solar plexus area. And it also is a very, very opening position. We could say that we open ourselves to the surrounding atmosphere, to the air that surrounds us. So that's one of the reasons that I've chosen that position today. It brings a connection both with a good form in our own body, but also a sense of being open to our surroundings. So it's going to be quite an active, dynamic class, but we'll stay mainly with the idea that we want to create very, very clear forms in our thoughts, and these will live in the surrounding atmosphere as well. So would you like to come up to a standing position to start with? And let's build up the thought that from a very strong, stable solar plexus, we're going to grow into the surrounding atmosphere. Let's take one foot forward and then lift from the solar plexus and create a mental picture, a thought of strength and a streaming up into the atmosphere above. We can do it on the other side, a good step down, a lift from the solar plexus, and a space that opens out around us. Let's do that a few times. The thought of a stable center and an opening space. Let your breath flow. And the other side, good firm step down. Lifting a stable center and opening into the surrounding space. One more time. Good foot. Stable center, lifting the rib cage up, opening to the surrounding space. And the other side, stepping down, lifting, opening to the surrounding space. And then come back down, feet on the ground, roll down and just hang. Be aware that your feet and legs keep a good, stable firmness. Then the upper body can relax more easily. And then come swinging freely up into the standing half moon. Be aware again of the solar plexus and that picture of opening space all around your chest. And take the hands by your sides. Come to the front of the mat We'll come to the sun prayer with the same picture. We have stability in our center, but the space opens up around us every time we open our body. Hands together. Take the arms up. From the center, the space opens up around us. Take the hands down, look to the ground. Take the right foot back. Make a good base. From our center, the space opens up around us. Come into the plank. Clear line. Take the knees down, chest down. Open into the cobra. Good, firm rib cage, opening up space. Triangle. And then take the right foot forward. Good base with the legs. Lifting the rib cage. The space opens up above and around you. Other foot forward, looking down towards the ground. And then come right the way up into the standing half moon. Lifting from the rib cage, letting the space open out. Take the hands by your sides. Hands together. Take the arms up. Let the breath flow. Lifting from the rib cage. Take the hands down, look towards the ground. Left foot back. Good base with the legs. Lifting from the rib cage, streaming right up through into the openness. Come into the plank, firm line. Take the knees down, hollow the back, chest and face down. Open into the cobra. Push into the downward dog. Take the left foot forward. Opening right up into the space. And the other foot forward. Come up once again and grow. Lengthening. And take the hands down. Let's do another similar preparatory movement to really get the sense of lengthening the sides of the body. So we do the same thing, but stepping sideways this time. Your foot can face forward. You step onto one foot and you lengthen and open that side. Let the arms stream up into the space above you. The mental picture, once again, is of a good active stretching in the side, opening out space. Other side, good step. We have a clear mental picture. This part really stretches and the space above us is vast and open. Let's do that a couple more times on each side. A good stable foot. An active stretching through your side. And the space around you opens up. And with that, the breath as well. And the other side, a step. That whole side of your body stretches. The space above you opens out. And then come back down. Once again, let's just roll down and hang. Let's bring a bit more active lengthening into this movement this time. You can picture that the backs of your legs grow long and that your back also grows long. Your head is directed down towards the ground. And then just come freely up into the standing half moon. Let's pause a little longer in the position so we build up that clear mental picture. We have a lift here, that's the stability, the center. And we have space that opens up around us as our body streams upwards. And come back down. Let's do a second round of the sun prayer with a little bit more accentuated opening this time. Really good activity here in the middle. Take the hands together. Take the arms up. So we're really active in the rib cage, lifting, growing into the openness. Breath very full and free. Take the hands down, look towards the ground. Good length through the back. Take your right foot back, form a good base. Take the arms up. Lift from the ribs, really allow yourself to open into the space, really actively. Then come into the plank, good firm line. Take the knees down, hollow your back, take the face down and slide along the ground. And with the cobra, direct your rib cage forwards. Push back into the downward dog, good line through your legs, line through your back. Take the right foot forward, making a good base with your legs, lifting from the rib cage, streaming upwards, opening into the space. Then the other foot forward, looking towards the ground. Coming back up, lifting from the rib cage and opening right out into the space. Hands down, hands together. A little bit faster this time, lifting up, center and space. Come down, looking towards the mat. Left foot back. Good base with the legs. An active center, opening into the space. Come into the plank. Take the knees down, hollow the back, face down. Open up into the cobra. Triangle. Left foot forward. With active center. And opening into the space. Other foot forward. Coming up once again. Lifting. And opening. And take the hands down. We're staying with one mental picture throughout today's session. It's the picture that we have a really good stability and strength here in the middle, and that space opens out. But in staying with that picture, it has an effect on our surroundings. The clearer our picture becomes, the more we might even start to feel that we are creating that sense of spaciousness, not only within our own bodies, but you might notice that it starts to feel more spacious in the room around you. The thoughts that we think can create an effect in the whole atmosphere that surrounds us. Let's move on to a next position, the scales. So we'll come into a preparatory movement, taking one foot onto the ground, being aware once again of this solar plexus center. And you can grow and lengthen, thinking of that space around us again, picturing it. The hands stream upwards, the heel at the back streams backwards. We have a center and we have space above and behind. Come back again. And the other side, a good step. Take the arms up. We've got the center. We're streaming back through the leg, up through the back, through the arms to the fingers. Really let the breath flow. Be aware of the spaciousness. And then return again. So for the scales, we take a good step. We can do this together because you know the position. We're going to have a picture of a stable center and lengthening into the space in front of us and behind us. Come into a good length and then come right into the horizontal line. You can stream backwards, you can stream forwards. into the space in both directions. Return again. You can take the foot a little bit forward and down and lengthen up into the space above you. So the whole time as we're doing the scales, we can remain aware, we can keep a mental picture that there is a big open room around us. And even if your room is quite small, you can think it big, it will start to feel bigger. So take the foot onto the ground. Take the arms up. You've got that center. And now you take your body into that horizontal line, streaming out in both directions, backwards and forwards into the space beyond. Return again. Take the foot forward, down, and stream up into the space. Take the hands down and roll down and hang. And come back up once again. Let's come into the downward dog. With the downward dog, we have the opposite from the feeling of space. We have the feeling of almost being hemmed in as the hands come between the arms. Come up onto your toes and then direct your hips up and back. The legs grow long, the back grows long, your arms grow long. You make a triangular shape. But you really have the feeling that that space is behind you now. You're turned away from it. And come back down onto your knees again. Let's come up and do the scales one more time. And let's think of the body growing even longer. While we hold it, we'll hold it a little bit longer so that during the holding time, we're lengthening, we're continuing to grow. Step onto the first foot. Take the arms up, have an awareness of your center that is going to be really active. Think of the space behind and in front of you. Come into the position. Now you can really stream backwards into that space with your leg and forwards into the space with your back and your arms so that you grow even longer. Hold it a little bit longer with that mental picture. Return again. Take the foot forward and down, and now lengthen right up into the space. And take the hands down. And the other side, a good step. Take the arms up, be aware of your solar plexus center, and now think of the space behind you and in front of you. Come into the scales, growing actively back through the leg, forwards through the spine and arms, and return again, taking the foot forward and down, and flow up into the space, and take the hands down. Once again, come into this forward bend, keeping the feet firm, lengthening through the backs of the legs, and letting the body really hang. And then come back up into the standing half moon. And take the hands down. So before we come to the camel, I'd like to do one more backward bend. which can again give that sense of really supporting ourselves with the rib cage, and that is the fish. So I'll just demonstrate the fish in its different stages. When we come into the fish, we need to lift up the rib cage quite actively first. With the fish, the chest then really opens and eventually the head drops back. So with the fish, the center, the whole thorax, we could call it, is really powerfully opened out. The legs flow away, the head drops back, but we can experience ourselves as really being held from our center. To come into the position, take your arms right underneath your body, drawing the shoulder blades together, palms side by side, legs flowing along the ground. Then come up onto your elbows, right up high, and now actively lift your rib cage upwards. You can push it up into the openness. Then you can just drop your head back and open the chest. Drop the head right back and take it down gently onto the mat behind you. So the center of the body is powerfully active. The legs just flow away and the head relaxes. Then come back down and just relax. So I've got some pictures I'd like to show you for the camel before we come to do it. This is the actual camel position. This is Heinz Grill doing the camel. That's what we're going to work towards. But there are various preparatory stages that we can do to come into the position. And there's a diagram, which is what I really wanted to show you, which we can, this is the picture that we can think as we do it. So you can see the lines. It starts with a shorter line, then it grows into a slightly bigger curve, then it opens out into an even bigger curve still, and then it finally opens out into this great big arch. This is what's called an imaginative picture. It means it's a picture of our soul's experience. And how it actually appears in the movement is that we start, there's the first preparatory stage. Well, that's already quite an advanced stage. We can start with slightly less. Oh, look, I've just noticed on the back of the book, there's a whole cycle of them actually. You can probably see that quite clearly. That's the first stage. Then the second stage. Then the third stage. And then the actual camel. Oh yes, that's one of the other stages. But anyway, you can see in this whole cycle how the movement gradually develops and opens out. So we have this mental picture that from our solar plexus, these increasing curves, there's the drawing again, increasing curves that grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we'll build up the preparatory stages, and then if you wish to come into the camel, you can. If you feel that it's better for you just to stay with one of those preparatory stages, then do so. It's important that you don't feel too much of a kink on your lower back. Remember also that you can rest your hands on a chair behind you if that's easier for you. So if you Come into a kneeling position. Knees are about hip width apart like that, so that they're a little bit more stable. And let's then start with the first movement. We can actually, just to begin with, make some circles so that we can get a sense of the space of air around us, which we should already have by now, because those thought forms that we've been building up throughout the session should already be in the room. But let's just see if we can think of these circles that we make with our arms getting bigger and bigger, gradually bigger, as we move, stretching now from this solar plexus region, opening out further and further into the room, lifting from the solar plexus, opening into the space. And then let's come into a more static movement, but not really static, but stretching. So here is our center, and there is the space that opens up above us. Breath flowing, opening right out. And then the other side. So don't drop the head back at this point. What's really important is to get a lift from the rib cage itself. That's where the activity is. We shouldn't use the head to try and pretend to ourselves that we're doing a backward bend. What's more important is that we develop the feeling of space. Let's do that once again. So the activity is to really lift at the rib cage, and then the whole chest and the arm are propelled into that space, ever increasing circles. And the other side, lifting at the rib cage, and then opening through the chest and through the arm to the fingertips. And then you can come down, rest your bottom on your heels, just slide down. And come back up. So that movement that we've done is actually a really good position in its own right. If you don't feel up to doing the full camel, especially at this time in the morning, then you can just stick with that movement and repeat it. Otherwise, I do recommend just putting a little coffee table or a chair just directly there behind you, above your feet, so that you can rest your hands on that when you come back. Otherwise, if you want to come into the full camel, I'll just demonstrate it first. So we're going to build up, picturing these ever increasing circles, as I showed you in the book. There's the starting point. And with each little stage of growth, you can see I'm growing in increments. And each one I can think of a greater circle and a greater circle, until eventually come all the way back. And then I can do the same thing on the other side, lifting and reaching. And coming up quite quickly with a good momentum, and coming down after. So would you like to come onto your knees? And even if you just do the preparatory stages, that's fine. Or if you want to rest your hands on a table or a chair, that's also fine. So take the arm up, first arm. You've got the center and you've got space. That's the clear picture we're putting into the room, growing a little bit more and continuing to grow right the way through. And eventually, if you wish, In a big circle, you can take the hand round to the heel or the chair or the table. And then the other side, lifting up, massive, big circle with your arm. And then drop the head right back if you're able to. Opening up the rib cage and constantly staying with that mental picture. You have a stable center and you have space that opens up all around you. Then you can make big circles with your arms, one at a time to come back, and then just come into the child's pose. So could you just have another look over here? I was watching you do that movement on my screen. And one thing I think would be helpful while you're now holding the movement, those of you that came all the way back into it, is to work at moving forwards even more once you're in the position. So I'll just show you again what I saw a little bit was a sense of being too far back. So once you're in the position, if you haven't managed to grow enough, you can so hopefully you could see that the hip, by pushing the hips forwards while I was in the position, I was able to then open out from here a little bit more. The second time you might well find it's a little bit easier. So let's have another go. Good, stable legs. Take one arm up. Lengthen from the center right up into the space. Make a great big circle. Take the hand right around behind to your heel or to the table or whatever you're using. And then the other arm in a great big circle around. Really lifting the rib cage, really extending back. And once you've come into the final position, you can direct your hips forwards a bit more and think of opening up the rib cage so that you increase that length even more. Your chest is opening up. The thought is that you have center and you have open space. Let the breath flow. And one arm at a time, come back out of the position and come down into child's pose. So you can come back up to a sitting position. So I just want to finish by reading once again the sentence that I read at the beginning from Heinz Grill's letter. The nature of the air's atmosphere develops according to the way individuals' feelings and thoughts take shape. So we've been developing a thought of real center and real openness. So we could just ask ourselves whether we think that the nature of the atmosphere has changed as a result of those thoughts that we've been creating for the last half hour. And then we can finish the session there.